Hey everyone, this is an intro to the guild system and gamified UI. Starting here, we have a front page, so I can scroll down and get some info. This is just some info about what the guild contracts and the game UI provides. We can scroll up and go into our account page. So this assumes that I've already joined some guilds. It gives me the guilds that I'm part of and an hour total of how much I've played on each. Each of these guilds have some stats about who I am in that guild and how many members, etc. And later on we'll go into that in more detail. For now, I'm just going to mint a test token, a game asset that I can use later or a member can use later. So let's mint that test token. Okay, great. So that transaction confirmed. We have now minted a test ERC721 game item that we can use later. Now I'm just going to create a fresh guild. Call it Test Guild. Test Guild. Just to explain that for now, this won't actually interact with StartNet at all. I'm waiting for factories to come as part of Cairo 0.9 to implement this, as it will call the factory contract that will deploy the guilds for you. So I've actually deployed one for us to use before this. So assuming that has been created, we can then go to manage that guild. So assuming this Titans of the Dark Circle is the guild, we can whitelist members for that guild. Now I'm actually going to whitelist myself because from creating the guild I'm not automatically a member, and I want to give myself the owner role because I want to deposit items into it later. I'm also going to create whitelist another member, and this is going to be someone that doesn't actually hold the item, but they're going to use it from the guild for a game interaction. So they'll have the status of member. So I'm going to go ahead and whitelist these two separate accounts and be back shortly. So while I'm in the manage screen, I'm going to initialize some permissions for this guild. This is permissions that the guild account is allowed to call and interact with. So I'm going to enter a contract address for the game that I want the guild to interact with. And I'll need a selector name as well as the function that I want the guild to be able to call. So if we look at the game contract that I'm going to be interacting with, it's just a test one. And in here I have two functions that I'm going to want to use. So we have a set character name function and an open door function, and we'll talk about those further a bit later. So let's just enter those two selector names. So we've got set character name as one. Re-enter the game contract address, and I want the open door selector in there as well. So let's add both of those, and we'll initialize these as permissions for the guild to call, and be back in a sec. Transaction succeeded. So now, previously we whitelisted those two accounts. So now we need to join them. I set the permissions so that allows me to make only these calls if I'm part of the guild, and now I'm actually going to join from when I whitelisted. So I can go to the explore page. This will show all the guilds that have been deployed. I can search if I want, so I'm just going to search for Titans, the Dark Circle, and go on see more. This will bring me a profile page, if you like, with a description and the actions. we've already been whitelisted, so we don't need to do that, and we can just join. So I'll join firstly with the whitelisted owner. Okay, so that went through. Just to explain a bit more detail about what was going on. So we have just minted 2 guild certificates for each account. The guild account is similar to a Argent account. The difference is that Argent checks for signatures and the guild account just checks that you hold a guild certificate. So one guild certificate states that it's an owner, and that was for the first account. The second guild certificate states that it's a member, and that was for the second account. So now let's switch back to being the owner account, and let's go and add an item to the guild. So we'll just give this a quick refresh again. Back to the owner account, and we'll click on the Titans of the Dark Circle guild. So we can see that you get some information here. You can look at the games it's compatible with, the permissions that have been set, and you can see that it has a castle key item already within the guild. I'm now going to add the item that I minted right at the start of the video, which was just a test NFT, and I've just called it a legendary sword. So as the owner, let's add that item. So that test game item has now been deposited. So the next step, and this is where the cool stuff is really happening, I want to now interact as a member who doesn't own that item, and let's use the castle key that's already in the guild. I want to interact with it and use it for a game operation. So I'll now switch again to my member account that is now part of the guild. See the address here, and now let's play and go to a test game environment. So this is the test game, and it has those functions that we mentioned earlier. So one of the functions is to set your character name. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to set the transaction off and then go into a bit more detail of what's going on. So I'm going to set my character name as Bob. I'll hit sign that transaction. So what's going on in the background is a transaction being made from my Argent account is being not sent straight to the game contract, but delegated through the guild account. So in the guild account, we have an execute transactions function, and this is very similar to the Argent execute function. It's just taking an array of calls and then sending it off and making those calls to the game in this instance. So yeah, this is a delegated function made from the Argent X account, and it then forwards the transaction of set character name to the game contract. So this game contract also takes in, as well as the name, it takes in the account that's calling. Now regularly this would just be a get caller address, but in this instance the caller address is the guild. So in order to be compatible with the guild, there needs to be this added input to change the game state of the original caller. So yeah, we'll come back when that's confirmed. Okay, so transaction complete, and we can see that the name has been set to Bob. So my character name through that game contract is Bob. Now the coolest part of the guild is when we get into using the guild items. So to unlock this door, I need to have the correct token, and it will check that the person calling, i.e. in this instance it's the guild, is the owner of that token. So this means that I don't actually own the token through my Argent X account, and as a member of the guild I can use their token to unlock the door. So let's sign. Okay, so that final transaction went through. We have unlocked the door using the key that was in the guild, and we can see that the message changed from staring at a shut wooden door to you open the door and see a drunk wizard staring back at you. So we can demonstrate here that we have used an item within the guild as a member without actually owning the item ourselves, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's a full life cycle, if you like, of a user experience with this initial concept. There is obviously the compatibility issue with games. In terms of their function, you need to add that little variable about who's the original account caller. I'm going to look at ways to see whether that can be improved, but for the moment we've got a working demo. Thank you very much.